Hey guys, it's Mr. Brown, and today we're going to work on Barbara Allen on page 42. Like I mentioned in the notes, Barbara Allen is basically got a great big focus on section, focus on poetry, and a fairly small little poem. We've already got into poetry with epics. Excuse me. This is getting into more traditional poems. For instance, ballads. And if we start reading the focus on section, what we see is this. As you study ballads, compare and contrast their elements with elements of other types of literature that you have read. Form. A ballad is a narrative poem, usually brief and written in the form of short stanzas. Ballads were originally intended to be sung, often to the accompaniment of a harp. The oldest traditional ballads were never written down. They were passed on from person to person. Each of these ballads, called balladeers, memorized the ballads, often incorporating personal changes. Later, as ballads were recited as well as sung, and later still they were written down. Ballads mainly focus on the dramatic episodes or conflicts. The immediate here and now quality of the story is of central importance. Any information about what happened to the characters before the ballad begins is supplied by the balladeer. So, like we said in the notes, ballads are very similar to epics. They're both narrative poems. They both get handed down generationally, and each new performer incorporates his own little changes into them. I included the little Looney Tunes cartoon, Porky Pig dressed up like Friar Tuck, singing Barbara Allen. This is because that is my first exposure ever to Barbara Allen, way before I ever heard of it as a poem, was me sitting there with my bowl of Captain Crunch eating, Saturday morning breakfast and watching Looney Tunes, and here's Porky Pig singing Barbara Allen. But that is only, excuse me, wrong in the throat, one version of about four versions that I know of that song. And each one of them is different. All right, it moves on to characters. Characters are people, animals, or magical creatures that a ballad is about. You can determine a character's personality by evaluating character clues such as descriptions, dialogue, actions, or reactions of other people to the character. You can often make an intelligent guess about a character's personality by deciding whether his or her actions speak louder than his or her words. Understanding character clues gives you a better sense of a character's motivation, the reasons why he or she performs certain actions. We talked about the types of characters when we did Beowulf, and as I warned you, that's never going to go away. The types of characters are protagonist, antagonist, round, flat, dynamic, and static. All right. As long as we've got stories with characters in them, those things can pop up. All right. Rhythm. Rhythm is what gives a ballad its sense of movement or flow. The rhythm of a ballad is created by successive rise and fall of sounds in pitch, stress, and speed. The way words are accented, the length of time it takes to pronounce words, and the pauses between words all contribute to the rhythm of a ballad. So it's the sense of movement, the sense of flow. Ballad, of course, is like is a form of song, and they all have rhythm. And depending on the song, the rhythm is different. All right. Imagery is very important in this poem. All right? Imagery is an author's creative use of words or descriptive phrases to appeal to one or more of the five senses: sight, hearing, touch, taste, or smell. Imagery helps you form a mental picture of both the events and the characters in a ballad. Words that appeal to the senses are called sensory words. Authors use them to evoke a particular feeling or emotion in their readers. The total atmosphere of a work, whether lighthearted, dismal, mysterious, or joyful, is called its mood. All right? Sensory words, like we talked about, are words that will invoke in your memory some sort of sensory trigger. All right, the smell of bread baking, or the taste of a particular type of food, things like that. Now, mood, of course, is the emotional background of the story, how it makes you feel. All right, figures of speech. Ballads make wide use of figures of speech. Figures of speech are expressions that convey a meaning beyond the literal or dictionary meaning of words that make them up. Two important figures of speech are the simile and the metaphor. Simile compares two things with the words like or as. You sing like a bird is a simile. A metaphor makes a comparison between two things without using extra words to show that the comparison is being made. The mother was a lioness when her children were threatened is a metaphor. All right. Now, tone. I stressed this in the notes, and I'm going to stress it here again. Tone and mood, the way they're being used here, are not the same thing. All right? Tone is a writer's attitude towards his or her subject and towards the writer's readers and listeners. Most works of poetry or prose exhibit a well-defined tone. Ballads, however, do not reveal the balladier's attitude. He is an impartial storyteller who does not share his or her own opinions about the audience. I talked about how tone is basically an effort by the author to try to get you to feel a certain kind of way. They're trying to influence your emotions, trying to change your mind, trying to get you to adopt a certain belief, things like that. I use the news outlets to do that because it's one of the most blatant examples of tone that I can think of. The one news organization wants you to support this political party and condemn the other one, while the other news organization does the exact opposite. Consider an election, which is coming up. You will see political ads that make you basically think that this political candidate, or supposed to make you think, they hope it'll make you think, this political candidate is great and wonderful and awesome, and this is the person we need in charge of the country. And this person is the worst human being ever to draw breath. They would be the doom of the country if they were to be elected or reelected. That's tone. Now, they don't do that in ballads. They basically just present you with facts. They just present you with a situation, events, and say, this is what happened. You decide for yourself how you feel about it. All right? Do not get mood and tone confused. 9 times out of 10 it will happen, but do not do it. Remember, tone is the author attempting to influence your emotions. Mood is the emotional background of a story, how it makes you feel emotionally. Allergies. Symbolism. Symbolism is the use of symbols in a work of art. A symbol is something that stands for or suggests something else. Writers use symbols especially to represent something abstract, such as an idea, a quality, or a hidden truth. For example, the bald eagle symbolizes the pride that Americans feel about our free democratic society. We hope. All right. Like we talked about, symbols can be something that seems to have absolutely nothing to do with the thing that it's supposed to represent, such as the example I gave you of water representing truth. But through the use of connotation, which we'll talk about more later, you can give words ideas and feelings that their definitions would say that they have nothing to do with. All right. Lastly, we talk about theme again. In reading or listening to a ballad, you can confuse subject and theme. It happens about as often as tone and mood. Subject is simply what the ballad is about. Theme is the main point or underlying message of the ballad. To understand the theme of a ballad, you should pay attention to the relationship between the characters, events, and results. Like I said in the notes, subject is the events that take place in the story. All right. Theme is the lesson that the story teaches you through what happens in the story. Beowulf goes and fights a big, hairy, scary monster that's been eating people for 12 years, and then he kills it. And then he goes on and fights more monsters and kills them too. The lesson, the theme of the story is be brave. Accept any challenge that comes your way. Live your life without fear. All right? Subject, theme. 2 different things. Don't get them confused. As you read Barbara Allen, ask yourself, what do you know? How do you know this work is a ballad? And what is the theme of this ballad? On 44, we have Barbara Allen. We don't know who wrote Barbara Allen. It's too old. Like Beowulf, it's too old, and we don't know who wrote it. It is typical of a type of poem native to the border country between Scotland and England. They call them border country ballads. Duh. And it could have been written anytime between 1200 and 1700. And like 90% of most music on the radio today, and like 90% of most music that's been written over the course of human history, it's about love. Good love, bad love. Some love that's so bad I had to get a shot for it. Had some bad love. It turned out good. Love my dog, but he ran away. Love mama, but she got run over by a danged old train. Whatever the love is, be it love of flesh, love of money, whatever it is. But 90% of them are about romantic love, and our ancestors were no different than we are. So it begins on page 44. It wasn't about the Martinmas time when the green leaves were falling that Sir John Graham in the West Country fell in love with Barbara Allen. So, in the fall of the year, around Martinmas, Barbara Allen and Sir John meet and fall in love. Right? Now, like we talked about, we have our first piece of imagery in this stanza. The green leaves were fallen. All right? It's fall, the leaves are falling off the trees. Winter's on its way. All right? Now, between stanzas 1 and 2, something happens. We don't know exactly what, but something happens. He sent his man down to the town, to the place where she was dwelling. Oh, hasten, come to my master dear, if he be Barbara Allen. One day, a servant of Sir John's comes to Barbara Allen's home, and he's frantically begging her to come to Sir John's side. Her response you see in the first line of the third stanza. Oh, slowly, slowly rose she up. She ain't in no hurry to go see him. She will get there when she gets there. All right? Oh, slowly, slowly rose she up to the place where he was lying, and when she drew the curtain by, young man, I think you're dying. All right? She gets to his place, finally, and she goes into his room, and she sees him looking so horrible that she thinks he's dying. And he says, oh, it's I'm sick and very, very sick, and 'tis for Barbara Allen. Oh, the better for me ye shall never be, though your heart's blood were a-spilling. He says, I am sick. I'm very sick. I'm dying. I'm dying for lack of you. I can't live without you. All right? Whatever he did between stanzas 1 and 2, they broke up over it. And now he's sitting here begging her to take him back. Or at least he's begging her to take him back in the first 2 lines, saying, oh, I can't live without you. I'm going to die if I can't have you. Then the second 2 lines, oh, the better for me ye shall never be, though your heart's blood were a-spilling. He's also trying to spit game. He's sitting here begging and bragging at the same time. Come on, take me back. Come on, take me back. You know you couldn't do better than me. All right? If your heart's blood was spilling out, if you were dying, you couldn't do better than me. All right? So I don't know how that works, begging and bragging at the same time, but he's doing it. All right? Oh, dinna ye mind, young man, said she. Don't you remember? All right? Oh, dinna ye mind, young man, said she, when ye the cups were filling, that ye made the helts go round and slighted Barbara Allen. She reminds him of the reason that they broke up, that she dumped him, apparently. He went out with his friends, and they made the helts go round, and they kept their cups full. Basically, he went out with his friends and got wasted. All right? Now, we have no information that anything more than that happened. That by itself may have been enough, but whatever did happen, it says she was slighted. She was insulted. And she dumped him. All right? He turned his face unto the wall, and death with him was dealing. Adieu, adieu, my dear friends all, and be kind to Barbara Allen. Apparently, when he said he couldn't live without her, he was not kidding, because he turns over on his side, he curls up in a little ball, and he dies. Just dies. All right? Willing suspension of disbelief. But to his credit, his last words, he tells his friends to be kind to her, not to blame her for his death. Now, for her part, oh, slowly, slowly rose she up, and slowly, slowly left him. And sighing said she could not stay, since death of life had reft him. She stays by his side for a long, long time. Oh, slowly, slowly rose she up, and slowly, slowly left him. She didn't really think he was going to die. She's completely shocked and surprised by this. And now that she just doesn't know what to do. But eventually, she does leave. Because, well, death of life had reft him. He's dead now. What else is she going to do? All right? She had not gone a mile but 2 when she heard the dead bell knelling, and every stroke that the dead bell clanged, it cried, woe to Barbara Allen. She gets about 2 miles out of town, heading home, and she starts to hear the church bells ringing for Sir John, for his death. And every time the bell rings, every time the hammer strikes the bell, it drives it into her a little bit deeper. I loved him. I really did. And he loved me. And I don't know what I'm going to do now. All right. And she's so upset, she's so distraught that by the time she gets home, she says to her mother, oh, mother, mother, make my bed, oh, make it soft and narrow. Since my love died for me today, I'll die for him tomorrow. Now, I'm sitting here making fun of it because I think it's a silly poem. But it takes a very dark twist right here at the end. All right. It's actually kind of dark all the way through it. If you paid attention to the notes I sent out, you'll know this already. The second piece of imagery in the next to last stanza is the bells ringing. We hear the bells ringing the same way we see the leaves falling off the trees. They're dead bells, funeral bells, all right, announcing the death of Sir John. And here at the end, she tells her mother to make her bed for her. That soft, narrow bed, that last bed that we all get into, that overpriced box that we stick in the ground inside another overpriced box and fill in with dirt. A coffin. All right. She's telling her mother to prepare her deathbed. All right. We touch the soft, narrow bed, the satin lining of the coffin. All right. Since my love died for me today, I'll die for him tomorrow. Perhaps she is going to do what he did and die of a broken heart, or perhaps she's going to be more serious and take matters into her own hands. Perhaps she's going to take her own life. We don't know. We're left with this. All right. Now, the three pieces of imagery: the leaves falling off the trees, the bells ringing, and the soft, narrow bed. Sight, sound, touch. All three are also symbols, and all three of them represent the same thing: death. All right. This is not just a poem about people being in love. This is a death poem, an elegy, a poem of sadness, especially concerning death. In each case, you have something that represents death: the leaves falling off the trees, the bells, the funeral bells ringing, and that soft, narrow bed, the coffin. And like I said in the notes, maybe these two were doomed from the moment they laid eyes on each other. Maybe like Romeo and Juliet, they're star-crossed lovers and it's not going to end well. Or maybe because of their own pride and stubbornness, they died. Sir John obviously has done something wrong, all right, something that offended the person that he loved. And he seems unwilling to apologize for it. You know, he's trying to wiggle out of it. For her part, she seems unwilling to forgive him. In both cases, if you were going to lay one of the 7 deadly sins on these two, I would say it's pride, because neither one of them can really let go of their hurt feelings or admit they've done something wrong. So anyway, that's Barbara Allen. All right. There are 2 extra credits that kind of go along with this one. There is the 25-point poetry submission. You write a poem of your own original creation and send it to me. And there's also the poetry recitation, in which you basically pick any of the poems, or I'll even let you do soliloquies from some of the bigger plays that have poetic passages like Othello and Macbeth. Anyway, you start at the beginning and you start with 100 points. You make a mistake, you have 99 points. You make a mistake, 98. You make a mistake, 97, 96, 95, 94, so on and so forth. Even if you just really are train wrecking, you'd still end up with a great big pile of points. Although if you really didn't seem to know what you're doing, I would probably stop you. For that one, you would basically have to videotape yourself and send it to me. Which means you can basically try again until you get it right. That one's worth 100 points potentially. Every mistake, you lose a point. You might think it's going to be difficult, but it is not. Barbara Allen, right here in front of us. It was about the Martinmas time, when the green leaves were falling, that Sir John Graham in the West Country fell in love with Barbara Allen. He sent his man down through the town to the place where she was dwelling. "O haste and come to my master dear, if he be Barbara Allen." Oh, slowly, slowly rose she up, the place where he was lying, and when she drew the curtain by, "Young man, I think you're dying." "Oh, it's I'm sick, and very, very sick, and 'tis for Barbara Allen. Oh, the better for me ye shall never be, though your heart's blood were spilling." "Oh, dinna ye mind, young man," said she, "when ye the cups were filling, ye made the helts go round and round, and slighted Barbara Allen?" He turned his face unto the wall, and death with him was dealing. "Adieu, adieu, my dear friends all, and be kind to Barbara Allen." And slowly, slowly rose she up, and slowly, slowly left him, and sighing said she could not stay, since death of life had reft him. She had not gone a mile but 2, when she heard the dead bells knelling, and every stroke that the dead bell clanged, it cried, "Woe to Barbara Allen." "Oh, mother, mother, make my bed, oh, make it soft and narrow. Since my love died for me today, I'll die for him tomorrow." All right? So it can be done. All right? And that's any of the poems that we want to do. This is just the first poem that we've handled. Barbara Allen, not a whole lot to it, but be sure that you keep tone, mood, make sure that you know the symbolism. And if you'll notice, it didn't say what the theme of this poem was. This, like we talked about, most of the time, theme is not going to be stated. You, the reader, have to read between the lines and decide for yourself what the theme was. All right. If you have questions or need help, as always, please contact me. I'm at your disposal. Have a good night.